we talked about CPI. CPI is the United States government's measurement of inflation, right? If you take my full financial course, I'll explain to you why the CPI is really the CPI and that it is not, in fact, a true measure of inflation. It's the government's way of minimizing the appearance of stealing your purchasing power. That is all it is, at a reasonable rate. But to me, a reasonable rate is zero. I don't want them stealing any of my purchasing power. If anything, I want them increasing my purchasing power, right? So the CPI is one measure of consumer price index. But we also have the producer price index. So the consumer price index, you have to take my full financial course to understand what's wrong with it. There are things wrong with the producer price index as well, or PPI. But the PPI is the price that producers pay for real goods in the economy. I believe that this is closer to truth than is the consumer price or CPI, right? But ultimately, they talk about inflation in terms of a percentage, a year over year change or rate of change, right? 2% higher, 3% higher, okay? They even admit that we got up in 2022, they admit that we got up to around 7% inflation, okay? That's just the year over year change as a percentage. But that's not the price, that's not the cumulative price of all inflation that they're agreeing to. This is the reality of their CPI, is that, okay, if I have a 3% increase this year, okay, it goes up, but it's 3% of all prices in the past plus the ones in the current. I have another 3%. It never is never going to go down. It's always going to go up. And what this is the losing the purchasing power of the dollar. All right, so you do see occasional dips. These dips are so modest in the overall scheme of things. In 1980, we had a recession. In the 1980s, we had a recession. CPI went slightly down. You can't even see it if I zoom out on the chart. The 2000, we had the dot-com bust. It went slightly down. Can't even see it on the chart. 2008, we had the great financial crisis. It went slightly down on the chart. 2020, we had COVID. Slightly down on the chart. My point is, this trend is up, and it will forever be up. If I overlay the 1970 to 1980 commodity supercycle, you'll see that's where I got this price line from to develop my trajectory. So assuming that I'm correct, that we're in the 1970s to 1980 run, this is what you're looking at inflation doing from 2020 to 2030. Not exact science here, but you're looking at 127% inflation. That means that your standard of living from 2020 is already going down. Well, get ready, because by the time we hit 2031, your standard of living compared to 2020 will have declined by more than half by the time we get there. So again, evidence. You think you're having a hard time now? Just wait. All right. So again, just like I've shown you in other charts like the interest rates, we have trends. Okay, this acts as support. I'm sorry, it acts as resistance when I'm below it, meaning that inflation has trouble busting through this trend line. It touches it and falls back. But we have now built up the momentum to break out of it. You're having a back test to the scene of the crime, where the support now becomes resistance. I'm sorry, this resistance becomes support, and we are not ever going to decline in the next 40 years below 1.47% inflation. But why? The price of money or interest rates. We are going to be on an upward trajectory that I can't even fathom. I have no idea where inflation is going, but it is going high. In the next 40 years, this trend is going up here. Will we reach those levels? Probably not. Why? Because the financial system will break. Governments will default. Houses will be repossessed. Every unimaginable thing you can think of is going to happen unless you learn lessons here at the end of this. All right, so now let's reprice. So the price of gold, this is the price of gold in dollars, right? Pretty strong upward trajectory. Well, let's adjust the price of gold for the CPI. Okay, that means let's adjust the price of gold to reflect inflation. Well, it's still an upward trajectory, but it's a much slower upward trajectory, meaning that gold is not really as expensive as you probably think it is. Where is gold going adjusted inflation? Way up here to this point. Where are we? We're way back here. So for the next 10 to 12 years during this commodity super cycle, we're maybe in the second to third inning. We've got a lot more to go. You may be thinking, okay, well, that means gold's forever going to go up. Well, it's going to go up if you're a long-term holder. Does that mean it's not going to have severe corrections and pullbacks along the way? No, you're probably looking at a severe correction fairly soon, if I had to guess. I don't think that, or at least a consolidation in price. But now let's price gold in the PPI. Again, upward slope, but nowhere near the upward slope of the price in dollars. So this is inflation-adjusted gold by two different metrics. Same thing with silver. Find just the price of silver by inflation, or PPI. Okay, everybody talks about $50 silver that we hit in 1980. Okay, well, guess what? We hit $50 silver again in 2011. But if you look at this chart, in 2011, was $50 silver worth as much as it was in 1980? Not even close. Today, we're way past $50 silver. We're $80 silver. $80 silver today is nowhere near as expensive as $50 silver was in 1980. Until we reach this point right here, silver has not reached an all-time high. What is the trend for price of silver? Adjusted for inflation, it is upward. This thing is going much higher. Has it moved too far, too fast? Yes. Silver may reach $100 in this move. It may not. But either way, I expect a pullback to probably the $50 or $60 range. If it does, load the boat. Buy as much as you can. I promise you'll never see it that cheap again. My projection shows $220 to $548 silver by 2031 to 2033. It depends on whether the move is measured from this cup and handle pattern or from the start of the move. So I measured it from two different places, and I get two different results. So it just gives me a range of where silver price is likely to go, just to have an idea of some range. Is this move over or not? In the short term, it may be over. In the long term, it's just getting started.